future for humankind, but who don't usually get the chance to sit down and talk with each other. So to use these digital learnings, I know we're all a bit tired of Zoom calls, but well, hopefully you're not that tired and that's why you're here. But we felt that there are some good things about it, like we can all sit on a one, which is about building creative coalitions.
Good. So you just blipped out there. I'm not sure if it's my Wi-Fi or is the kind of the evil forces around the world who are trying to interfere with our progressive agenda here. But anyway, yeah, so thanks for that. That's cool. And this, our intention today, actually, and our intention for Think, Act, Change is to, one, have an open conversation between sustainability pioneers with different perspectives. Two, speed change through better thinking and more creative communication, more creative action, and make sure sustainability in all its manifestations, whether that's climate, circular economy, oceans, community building, inequality, that they stay at the top of the political agenda. So before we start the debate, David's going to introduce our speakers now. And so over to you. We have three amazing speakers today. So David, please do the intros.
From San Francisco, sunny San Francisco, is Harley K. Dubois. She's a founding board member and chief transition officer of the BurningMan project. She was a fitness director and firefighter in her former life, firefighter being quite ironic because she came to be a co-founder of the BurningMan. She's indefatigably involved with community art organizations and such like, such as being a founding board member of the US Nation of Makers, and a board member of Illuminate, which rallies large groups of people together to create impossible works of public art. She's also been responsible in her work with Burning Man for bringing in many other organizations into the Burning Man ecosystem. If you're not aware of Burning Man, it's very bare bones. It was founded in 1986, and it now brings approximately 70,000 people, known as burners, to a temporary city in the Nevada desert, to operate a collaborative, self-sustaining economy and have a week-long experience of self and community expression and realization. But what we're very, very impressed with their philosophy is that it's become more and more a global network with many community and artistic partners, and it has a concept of sustainability which they're conveying to the world at large to help us with this dying planet conundrum that we're all facing. So that's Harley. She's going to be talking in a second. Should I go through, or I'll go through all the intros and then we'll go through all the speakers. Yeah. So we also have Harry Vaha. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that badly. He's the head of global public and government affairs at Signify. So someone quite a long time ago said, let there be light. And lighting is the first thing we ask for in our electricity usage. Harry has had over 20 years experience in this world. At Signify, which was formerly Philips Lighting, it's a very, very large concern. In 2019, it had sales of 6.2 billion. They have euros. They have approximately 32,000 employees and are present in over 70 countries. But thanks to work of Harry and others, they have been pushing the envelope on sustainability. And the company has been named as an industry leader in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for 3 years in a row. Harry is the head of global public and government affairs and vice president. And he's also chairman of the Signify Foundation. The list of Harry's involvement in climate-related associations is too long to list here, but suffice to say, it's very many. He's active in global governance, including with the World Economic Forum and the UN, and he's a UN leader of change, an energy efficiency visionary, and many other accolades. Also, what we found very interesting in his work is that he's the chair of the Corporate Leaders Group Europe, which is part of the Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership. It's a bit of a mouthful. The Corporate Leaders Group Europe works with CEOs to develop solutions on climate change with policymakers and business peers worldwide. So we find that very interesting to bring people from different walks together and to see how constructive coalitions can be made. Finally, Fouzy, Mate, your video's not on, Fouzy. Can you wave? Well, we'll see you later if you're not ready. So Fouzy is joining us from Paris. I personally first met Fouzy a few years ago at a conference in Berlin, where she was dramatically handed the stage by the International Executive Director of Greenpeace. And she told the room of civil society bigwigs a powerful story of a cut adrift young refugee who'd been left behind by society. She consequently got the support of every person in that room for her project. We worked together on the concept of Yes for Humanity, which is the idea of using the most basic positive message to create a broader coalition for climate justice than ever before. Fouzy is a long advocate and activist for the rights of children and care leavers. She helped set up an organization in France, Repairs, which allows these vulnerable communities to express themselves. And now her movement, Yes for Humanity, has been conceived as a global youth-led coalition for climate and social justice. It's been developed in collaboration with Greenpeace, Oxfam, Terre des Hommes, 350, and many, many other partners. Part of the first output will be a social network for activists to connect and coordinate action with people from all walks of life, hence creative coalitions from here too. There are members from all over Europe, the Balkans, Middle East and North Africa, from Colombia to Canada, and Sub-Saharan Africa, where there was recently a Yes response action organized for response to COVID-19. So those are our speakers today.
Unmute myself. Wow, that's so we got an amazing lineup there. David, thanks for that. So with our amazing lineup of speakers, and I'm getting messages that my internet is unstable, so hey, bear with me if I freeze in a strange face. I just thought it would be interesting today to share, because this is our second event, of like who we've got here in the room with us, as it were. I'm just going to go back up the chain, as it were. So we have Miguel from Seville, Spain. We got Bettina from Brussels, Sarah from West London, hello. Prerna from Brussels, hello, and Mark from Jersey. CI, is that Jersey, Cincinnati? I don't know, actually. Mark Brookland to help us with our geography. We got Nat from Barnsley in South Yorkshire, hello. Nora in Brussels by way of West Cork. From Poland, living in the Netherlands, Berlin, Ireland, Paris. Wow, so an amazing group of countries, but I'm really happy to see so many different stakeholders represented here, and I just made a note of some of the people who've signed up and are in the room with us right now. So we have think tanks, we have the Centre for Social Innovation, we have the Centre for European Policy Studies, and we have the Foundation for European Progressive Studies. So welcome to you. We have NGO networks covering transport and environment, European schools, European cities, young feminists. We have campaign groups, the Global Call for Action Against Poverty, hello Tanya, Have Some Dignity, we have Frontline Defenders, we have media platforms including Vogue, I Am Sound, and we have several companies including, just highlighted a couple, Tetra Pak and Oatly, and institutions, people from the European institutions as well, from the European Commission, although they're very busy. So we're really happy to see you all, so welcome. We're going to get on to the speakers now. So the format is, I'm going to ask a question. The speakers are going to talk a little bit to answer the first question with some pre-prepared, their story they're going to tell. And we're going to keep an eye on the chat. So do put your insights, your questions in the chat, because then we'll have a chance to ask your questions. So speakers, are you ready? We have the first question. I'm just going to close the chat, make it smaller. Whoops, I've made it bigger. Which is first of all, to Harley. We're going to ask the first question to Harley. So, I mean, all of you, you're all sustainability pioneers from different backgrounds, but what you all have in common is the need for partners and communities and advocates and coalitions to make progress. So can you give us a flavor of what motivates you? What's your story as regards sustainability? And how important is it for you to build creative coalitions to achieve your goals? So I'm going to ask first over to Harley to give us your insights. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but you broke up. I heard, can you give us a flavor?
Oh, did I break up really? Wow, that's my internet connection. I wonder if I have lots of children who are on the line at the same time. So what did I come from? So to give us a flavor, can you give us a flavor, Harley, of what motivates you? What's your story as regards sustainability? where you're from, the organization Burning Man, and also how important is it for you to build creative coalitions to get your, to achieve your goals? I mean, community building is a strong part of your story.
Yeah,
so
it certainly is.
I
did prepare some slides, and I think they'll help to answer the question. Shall I share my screen?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. And can you guys see a pretty picture of
Yay.
a city in the desert? Good. All right, so this is Black Rock City. This is what people call Burning Man. Burning Man's a lot more than this city, but this is what you typically think of. It is an event that happens in the desert, 2 hours from Reno, Nevada, which is like 6 hours from any other large major metropolis. It holds 80,000 people. And for 1 week, you'll find people there prototyping new ideas. A lot of wonderful ideas that have been picked up by NASA and cities and different learning institutions have been prototyped out here, where the conditions are hard and living out there is hard. And if it works out at Burning Man, it's going to work anywhere. People are practicing different ideas around community. A lot of intentional living opportunities were born out of Burning Man. A lot of business, like Google itself, were born out of Burning Man. The experience there, bringing people together in ways that are challenging and heartwarming and inspiring. The city is like any other city. It has the busiest airport in Nevada for the 1 week out of the year it exists. It has a wonderful hospital. It has everything except for garbage collection. It's a pack it in and pack it out event. And let's see if I can get on to the next slide. Can't seem to forward to my next slide.
Bottom left of the screen, normally.
Yeah.
Can you see those arrows?
Oh, there we go. There we go. So just another view of the city. We're also known for a bunch of different other things, such as the fact that we are a Leave No Trace event. You can see the city right here. This is 40 miles of desert length and 7 miles across. And it's a very harsh environment. And we actually stage a whole bunch of containers and buildings and such like that over in this other area over here. You can see in this area, we have 200 acres where we store things. So we truck things in. We set up the entire city in about a month. People come and live there for a week, and then it takes about another month to make it all go away, completely gone, leaving nothing behind. It is a camping trip, so you're supposed to bring everything you need yourself. There's no money that you have there. There's no restaurants. There's nothing you can buy. It is just something that you need to be prepared for. So when we leave, you'll see nothing left behind us. And we've actually gone back over the years and cleaned up anything. This is a learning process. We've been figuring this out for 30 years. And in the beginning, we did have some scars left on the ply, and we've gone back and cleaned everything up, so you never know where we've ever been. We're known for big art. And big art is important because it's not just about the amazing art. It's about the fact that people come together to make that art. And a lot of people learn how to weld or learn that they have administrative skills by helping make these amazing things happen with these group of people. What we found is, like great civilizations, you know that it was a great civilization by the art that was created out of it. This is kind of reverse engineering that. We have people making great art. Out of that comes community, and out of that community comes a civic mindedness. And people come back from having had this experience in the middle of nowhere, and they say, I want to make my city better. I want to make where I live better all the rest of the days of the year. We believe in ritual and ceremony. This is 80,000 people gathering to watch the man burn. And we have a lot of ritual and ceremony that is really present in everything we do, because that's an opportunity to bring people together and have an individual understand the context they have and the concept of the greater whole. And it's a very important thing. I think a lot of our culture and society is missing these days. Over the years, we've developed these principles. This is what we live by. We learned these the hard way. We learned these by doing. And Larry Harvey, the late Larry Harvey, passed away 2 years ago, created these in 2004. But all the learning to come up with these things happened many years before that. Radical inclusion. Everybody's welcome. Gifting. We have no money at Burning Man and no need for money. And if you give something, you have to give just for the sake of giving, expecting nothing in return. We don't even really believe in barter. Decommodification. This is not a place to come and sell things. This is a safe place for people to explore who they are and what they're interested in without having to worry about being branded or having someone try to pitch you something. Radical self-reliance. You better be able to take care of yourself. You're out in the middle of nowhere. And hopefully you've brought enough to help somebody else as well. Radical self-expression. It's a safe place just to be who you are and not have to worry about what somebody else might think. Communal effort. We can't do this by ourselves. It takes 10,000 volunteers just to do the backbone of the event. But everyone, we just create the shell. Everyone else brings content. So it's all a communal effort. And out of that, as I said before, it breeds civic responsibility. Leave no trace. Pack it in, pack it out. Participation. You're not there to sit back and watch. You need to be a part of what's going on. And immediacy. Let's be the present, not in the past, not in the future, not on a device, but with each other. I thought it'd be interesting to see what our mission is. I have to move my thing here. The mission of the Burning Man organization is to facilitate and extend the culture that has issued from the Burning Man event into the larger world. So we're really not about just being in the desert. We have, since 2002, had regional contacts all around the world. Now there's over 300 regional contacts. This map I'm about to show you is a little bit old. Whoops, went too far. We have more than this now, but certainly every state in the United States and many, many other countries, we have people that represent us. We have 100 sanctioned events globally, probably more than that now. We have so many other businesses, for-profits, nonprofits, festivals, different kinds of events were born out of the spirit of Burning Man or an experience at Burning Man. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was our other arm, which is directly our sustainability, our environmental arm, born out of the Hurricane Katrina, which I think is almost 10 years ago now. We started Burners Without Borders, and they're all about disaster relief, yes, but more importantly, helping people create resilient and sustainable worlds, their own ecosystems, their own way of being. We travel internationally to help people realize their own futures through their own education and their own needs. We have over 40 chapters in the United States now, and we're growing fast. Right now, those guys are so hard at work with the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's my little introduction. I hope you can see through that. I hope that answered your question. It's kind of long-winded. I think you were asking. Am I correct? Stop my screen sharing. Oh, that's just a pretty picture to end. And
lovely.
Stop sharing.
Lovely. Thank you so much. A pretty picture too. Thank you so much. That was really interesting, fascinating. I love the principles, and that's really a good guide. I mean, I always remember when developing campaigns back in the, really multi-coalition campaigns, that if you get your principles right, then that's kind of easier to build a coalition, because you're not in the detail, but you're in the principles, which kind of then can generate and support motivational work. Thank you so much. We're going to now pass the floor to Harry. So Harry, the same question goes to you. Just tell us a flavor of what motivates you. What's your story from your own particular perspective, and how do creative coalitions and collaboration feature so strongly in your world? Over to you, Harry. And I do, if I can find it, have a slide to share. So let me just get that. How can I do this? Over to you, Harry. Do chat. This is Harry, everybody.
Yeah, so thank you, Jo. So maybe one thing I would say that is with me, or that inspires me from the very first day that I work on these subjects, and my experience, and indeed also goes back to the last century, you could say, is that there's no progress unless you combine human interests or benefits for people with the quality of our living environment and for the economy. So we really need to look for a triple win. Those are the only solutions that last. Now we call that sustainable development. I'd like to scope some of the experiences that we have to today's pandemic. We see with the corona pandemic on which actually my wife had, according to the doctor, called it a narrow escape. So I hope with you everything has been better. But then, yeah, but you see actually from this pandemic that many of our critical systems, our health system, the quality of a living environment, there seems also to be a relation between air quality and the impact, let's say the heaviness of the impact of Corona with that. But also our economies that all are very, very vulnerable. And if we are a little bit optimistic, we see that it looks like, although the impact is severe, that we will just be able, it may take a couple of years to also manage this crisis. But it also shows that with unsustainable development, and particularly the foreseen impact of unmanageable climate change, we are certainly not going to be able to manage that, and it will lead to global disruption. So that is why we need to take the responsibility that we have as public and private sector leaders to build back better. I think build back better is the term that is used quite a lot, also in a release from UN Global Compact today, to which we signed on. I would actually say, instead of building back better, I think we should build forward better. Instead of thinking that we should recreate the past, and we should create a better future. And on that, it's important to start with an ambition level. So our ambition level, and I think the ambition level on which we do a lot of work in Europe, but also globally, is for the world to embrace the goal to become carbon neutral latest 2050. And in September, our CEO and I, we were also in the UN General Assembly during the special Climate Action Day that was organized by the Secretary General. And we spoke about this, and we also called on companies to become carbon neutral latest 2030. We are not a very energy intensive company, but in 2015 at COP21 in Paris, we took on carbon neutral by the end of this year, and we will be. So we are very far on our way. I will spare you the numbers, but we will be carbon neutral later this year. So in that, we do a lot of advocacy. The European Commission is now thinking about, it's included in the European Green Deal. It's being worked, they're now working on turning this into a law, but also relating that law to the pandemic and to what a green recovery would ask from us. We feel that in that, as with the carbon neutral commitment, it's important to walk the talk. And this is where partnerships and coalitions come in. So we have this commitment to become carbon neutral. And on that, we work with quite a few partners. More specifically, also for our buildings, we have signed on to a commitment of the World Green Building Council for net zero carbon buildings. So we are also a member of a program on the renewable energy with the climate group, RE100. I imagine as some of you are also a member. So there we are now 93% on our way to be powered by renewable energy. And we also joined an initiative on EV100, so also converting our corporate fleet to electric cars, which we're also one of the partners is LeasePlan, and one of the biggest leasing companies in the world. So in that, we're also asking from our political leaders to walk the talk. So the best way to create more traction is then not only to design the policies and to have calls, and many calls for action, and many webinars these days on this, but then also to see what can you do yourself. So there we're also advocating for ministerial electric car programs, or for public sector buildings to become carbon neutral. So this is also what we discussed with the European Commission, and they then also adopted this as part of the European Green Deal. Because in that we will create the examples to show how this works. I think it will also help us to demystify tackling climate change. It will demystify to the public at large what sustainable development actually is all about. And they will see the positive impact on the quality of our living environment, air quality and other things. And they will also see how this creates jobs. And so there, our hope is that if we adopt more of these walk the talk initiatives where coalitions and partnerships really matter, that we can accelerate progress through the voting and buying behavior of citizens, because they will, let's say, they will reward the more forward-looking and acting companies through their buying behavior, and they will hopefully vote more often for politicians that actually care for the future, much more than only for themselves. Then you can ask, hey, is this possible, this fast progress that is needed? And well, I think that although we see that progress is only happening at half of the speed that is needed, and we need to double the pace of almost everything, double the pace of energy efficiency progress, of renovation of infrastructure, of renewable adoption, of carbon engineering, then the good news, I would say, is that progress is not linear. And we see that also in the lighting sector. So I think some of you know the example, and I spoke about this with Joe. That actually, at the end of 2006, we called, as part of our program on climate change, we called for the global phase out of incandescent light bulbs. And at that time, so now this is like sheer logic that we did it. At that time, it was quite revolutionary, and I had to do as much internal as external lobby. And it was also world headline news. I have like such a stack of newspaper articles and web postings on this, because it was revolutionary that a company called for the phase out of the product that it was founded with. And indeed, as David mentioned, it was the first mass electric appliance. There was nothing else. But also, it was still 2/3 of our sales volume. Can you imagine? Less than 15 years ago, 2/3 of our sales volume. Well, today we are 80% LED. End of this year, early next year, all the LEDs we put on the market are IoT connected or connectable. And also there in 2006, lighting was 19% of global electricity consumption, so almost 1/5. Last year it was 13, and then by 2030 it will be down to 8. While at the same time, the use of light, because of population growth and urbanization, will have grown by 35%. So the good news is that this decoupling of growth, let's say the decoupling of progress and of services that people need with consumption of energy and resource is possible. So we actually hope that this example, and also working together with others, will inspire other examples to accelerate. And you can only do this by working with others. So maybe I'll stop there. You see actually on the screen a few examples of the work we are doing on the green recovery, which for a large part includes then also the necessity to accelerate renovation of our existing infrastructure. So to create and to recreate the jobs that matter, and not just to provide consumption-driven economic development, which is actually throwing money into a black hole, a bit more like productive-driven, real progress, let's say for a future that I think everybody deserves. Let me stop there, Joe.
Great. That's whoops. I'm going to stop the screen share. And I'm not muted. That's amazing. So thanks so much, Harry. This is for those of us who are not familiar with the corporate world. Harry's just given quite a clear overview of all the many things that companies have to do, and the companies that are progressive take responsibility for leading in coalitions, investing in coalitions. And also what struck me, Harry, is that frankly, you have to bring a lot of people along with you, not just internally, but also externally, like the laggards in your sector as well, and as well as policymakers, frankly, because you need a policy framework. And this is kind of my angle on this whole thing. It's like without really a clear policy framework, it's just really hard for everybody to be moved along in the right direction. So thanks so much for that, Harry. We're going to go straight now to Fouzy, who's coming from a totally different angle and a different approach. And then we're going to get into the questions, which I know are piling in. Thank you so much. And then we're going to start with some questions and engage the audience too. Fouzy, over to you.
Yes, I have a little problem is that I need to install apparently a Chrome extension to be able to share screen because I'm on Linux, which I didn't know, so I don't know
Fouzy,
how long
do you want me to share it for you? Is it the PDF? It's the PDF that you sent me before. I can share it for you if you like.
The last PPT I sent you.
Yeah. I can share that.
Go, David. You see, this is a spirit of collaboration. We work it out together. Things crop up, we just deal with it, right?
Agility. This is agility.
Yeah, agility.
Exactly.
So we wait for David to, I'm just going to have a look at the chat. We've got some nice questions in here already. Post-Brexit, yes.
Oh, I got an error message. It can't be opened for some reason. That's all Mac OS X offered me was for some reason. So
Okay.
On, let me try again. Can I use the previous PDF that you sent, or?
It was not the good one, but I will do a download in PDF form and talk at the same time. I can do both.
Let me see. Let me just try one more time. Oh no, I can't open it. Hold on. Let me just try one more time.
I'm just sending it to you one more time.
Yeah.
So hi everyone, my name is Fouzy. So I was already introduced. Before showing my screen, just to tell you a little bit more about Yes4Humanity. So Yes4Humanity started in October 2018 during the Global Perspectives Conference, which is organized once a year by the International Civil Society Center. It was in Berlin that year, and I was there. Actually, I was there by mistake. I was there to replace someone else at the conference to talk about children's rights. And I met there David. And when I arrived to the conference, it was the International Civil Society Center has been bringing for a decade different INGOs together, Greenpeace, WWF, Oxfam Amnesty, SOS Children's Villages, to break silos and create cross-fertilization. And
sorry, I have your screen. I can just share your screen now, Fouzy. So just tell me when to move and when not to.
Okay. So this year, the theme was about engaging a new generation. And the big question, the big issue was to know how to engage young people into different causes, such as human rights, LGBTIQ plus rights, and so on. But since the beginning of the conference, and it was a 5-day conference, no one was talking about climate change. At this moment, the IPCC report, I think, was out for about a week, or maybe it was not out, I don't know. But it was really strange not to address the question of climate irreversibility at this conference. And I had a conversation with Greenpeace International Executive Director Jennifer Morgan, and I started to pitch out this idea that I had for a long time, because as David said, I'm first and foremost a children's rights activist, but I worked in the art sector, and I'm a sociologist. So my job is really to work on youth inclusion and all these questions. And I said to them, we really need to break the silos, and we need to stop working around only our cause, but understand that all causes are intersectional and are global and have to be taken both at a local level and at a global level. So that's how it started. And what we've been building so far for a year and a half is two things. It's a local presence with leaders from all over the world. So we are right now 138 young leaders from different movements. So Fridays for Future, Youth for Climate, Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, UNICEF Youth, and so on. We all have different path of life. It's a very diverse selection of people. I mean, it's not a selection, actually, it's more encounters and the same drive that we all had. And what we started to work on was to create really a theory of change that would encompass all our realities, because we all come from more than, now we were in 47 countries before COVID-19. Now we are in 72 countries because a lot of solidarity groups have been created in all over Africa, actually, and also in Latin America. And what we've been really working on was to say, okay, what is our local context and what we want to see as change in the world. And the first thing was to say that everybody can act at their own level, but sometimes they don't find the means to be active and to really change their daily lives, their consumption, and all of this. So we worked on a social network, which is a little bit of Facebook/medium.com/LinkedIn, and this you can change the page. This social network is there to connect people, so connect activists, movements, NGOs, but also companies. We've been bringing a lot of companies inside Yes who are trying to do good, universities, and also artists, intellectuals. Every societal actors can connect on this platform and start to exchange their best practices, their knowledge, and also gather data, local data, so we can see what has been working in a place and what could be amplified in another place in the world. The second thing is really to be able to coordinate by providing tools and possibilities for action to the members and the users of the social network we are building, and help them create projects, so campaigns or events. And maybe like what is quite original in the way people, organizations are working around the campaigns is that they have to do campaigns that are also multi-stakeholder. So they can't do a campaign by themselves. If tomorrow Greenpeace wants to start a campaign on the platform, they will have to do it with a grassroots organization and another big organization, but at least one grassroots organization. As for us, it was important to say that the small ones, the ones that don't have money, sometimes at a local level are the ones who are doing the change, providing the change, and we need also to highlight them and make them their voices heard also. And then the last thing is to inspire by being able to publish stories, but also alerts, and all of this is open source, obviously, so it can be shared everywhere. You can change the page. I'm going to try to go quickly. So yeah, so that's what we've been working on, and we've been also, is it working? Okay, I'm going to look. So, and we've been, just to show you a little slide, I don't have more yet to show you, but we've been working on the features of the platform, which will be out in June 17. No, it's not working.
Sorry, I'm going to have to reshare because I always have this problem with Zoom.
Okay. So you will see just after what we can do on the platform. And just to continue a little bit, so this is what we've been doing for the digital platform we are creating, and what we've been also doing for a year now. Okay, yes. So, you know, for example, you can see all news stories around a campaign or an event. You can share them. You can also, we are building a syndication tool, research bar, very powerful, that can aggregate all the data of other websites from our partners. So it will help people see what is happening everywhere in the world, and they will be able also to see a map of the world and all the good positive things happening around 3 pillars that we've been working on. The first pillar is ecology. In ecology, you can find climate, the question of climate, biodiversity, and health. In equity, you can find new economic models, finance, and labor also. And in citizenship, it's the question of education, children's rights and care, and democracy, so counterpower, and all of these questions. And on the platform, people will be able to see how to see a barometer of how the world is getting better by the end of the year, after we start the big campaign Fixing a Sick World, which is the name that we are starting right now. And another thing we've been working on, to give you a little bit more of the partners that we have inside Yes and have been creating also all of this with us. We have OECD, the UN, a lot of NGOs like Oxfam, Plan International, Greenpeace, the World Scouts, CBM. So we try to be really intersectional, have also a lot of migrant network, women's network, and LGBTIQ+ network inside Yes. And on the next page, you can see Okay, it's just a small photo of the first summit we organized, where we brought together 40 young leaders from all over the world, Africa, America, and we worked together with them on what we wanted to build for the year coming. And then on the page just after, it's a little bit, so it's not like super nice. It's very, we drew it really quickly, but we divided the world into different territories, which we could call eco-regions, and it's territories that seem to be more relevant for us to be able to scale up innovations in countries that are similar. So we use some indicators for that, obviously, and we did it with Geograph, so really serious people, but you have the topology, the water precipitation, and also the geopolitical landscape. And it was important to do it that way. So we really build cross cooperation and bilateral cooperation between the regions we chose, but also inside all the countries together. So sometimes you will see, for example, Russia is in 2 regions at the same time. So it depends of what is the landscape and what is the topology of the place. And then to finish, so it's just like a little snapshot of the people, one person of Yes, a member of Yes, and something we did recently. We organized what is called Yes Express, which is a name found by by David, actually, which is a little bit like TED Talks. But the idea is really also to break silos and to bring together individuals working towards our 3 pillars and make them exchange on their best practices and what they do at a global level. And we did that for Oxfam on their Instagram. We organized live channels for 3 days during Earth Day to show initiatives everywhere in the world. And now to finish, the last thing which we've been working on, so it's I would say it's the physical imprint of Yes. As I said, we are both digital and physical, and at the digital level, so it's the platform and all the working groups, solidarity groups we are creating, and at a physical level, we are building at the moment heart spaces, what we call heart spaces, which could be like intercultural civic center, citizen center, or a third hub. In English, I think you call that third hub. And the heart space are going to be, there will be a lot of them all around the Balkans and also in France this summer. And it's little houses, little mobile houses where you can collect, for example, food. You can have organization, local organization hosting events, and it will be really a place where the ecosystem, the network of Yes, can live physically in villages, in cities, everywhere, and where we can bring trainings and also artists in the mix in those places. Because we spoke about creativity, and one thing I didn't say is that the co-founder of one of the co-founder of Yes is an artist, and we started first with art, with really thinking about the fact that artists were a little bit left out in all this, bubble of thinking, reflection around climate change and social justice, whilst they are sometimes the most relevant people to speak about how the world is going right now, and or to rethink models. So we really wanted to have a special space for artists, and that's why on the platform we decided that people could actually choose the way they want to get engaged. They can be talkers. Talkers usually are people who use a medium of expression to speak about a cause that is important to them, or to give information, valuable information. So it can be artists, it can be writers, journalists, and so on. Movers are more like community organizers or community managers, people that have a capacity to really move a lot of people and organize things. And solvers are people who are coming with an innovation, with a technological innovation that can really help the world, as we have like a time clock until 2030. So we really need to be quick to create all of this emulation. And really the idea was first and foremost to break silos and to create really interconnection and cross-cultural comprehension. Also show that in Africa, actually a lot of technologies and innovation are happening right now that could be used in the global north. And I think that COVID-19, when I did my speech at Global Perspective, I spoke about pandemics actually, and I said if we are not able to, if we don't stop to have an hyper-specialized world, and we are not able to work together, when we will have a pandemic, we will depend basically on China to give us drugs, which is basically what is happening now. And what we hope to do is by showing what is happening everywhere and by giving space to people to express themselves, that we can build a big network of change makers.
Thank you very much, Fouzy. Wow, that's a lot for us outside your bubble to think about. I love the way you've redrawn the world. I think that's really fascinating. Actually, that's it's already good for us to think about things in new ways, because then we can figure out different ways of doing things and building bridges between different communities to get it done. I had a question. I was just quite interested listening to the idea of the principles and the values and the method, the approach. You all quite have a different approach, clearly, because you're slightly different organizations. But if we think about the bigger picture, everybody's about making progress towards sustainability, towards a better world, focused on climate, on circular economy, on community building. So I'm really keen to explore the formula, if you can sum it up. What's your formula? What's your magic formula for transformation experiences? Because it's not just about transforming people to act and do in different ways. It's also about transforming the teams you work with, transforming the partners you work with, and transforming the whole policy experience. And it's also we've heard through art, we've heard through policy making, we've heard through community building, but let's maybe dig deep a little bit into that. Like, what is your formula for the transformation experience? How do you get that done? And actually, how do you measure that? Because you may have a set of principles or guidelines, but then how does that work in practice? Maybe I could ask Harley first to comment on that.
Sure. Yeah, I've thought long and hard about this. We are transforming individuals. Like, if you come to Burning Man, you have an opportunity, you're in a petri dish, and you have an opportunity to dive into a transformational experience if you choose to. What happens there is you're taken out of your comfort zone, number one. You're not in the comfort of your home, you're in a foreign environment. It's actually a very harsh environment. And being on the edge, like pushed out of your norm, so you have to really look around and think, is really important. It's a really important element to be out of your comfort zone. Second thing is, as I mentioned in my little presentation, ritual and ceremony. Having a place to ground you with other people in something that's meaningful that you really care about is critical. The third thing is doing meaningful work. Like, not sitting around and watching, but actually doing. And when I say meaningful work, the kind of work that, like, you don't necessarily for it, but makes you passionate, makes you feel like it counts, it matters, it fills you up, it makes you feel good. That's what I mean by meaningful work. And the last thing, what is the last thing? There's four things. When you combine, it's taking away the things that make you feel inhibited, the things that make you feel self-conscious, taking away self-consciousness, so you can just be truly in that moment and who you are. And a lot of things that make people feel unconscious are being judged. It's social media. A lot of it comes over technology kinds of mediums, but it's also commercialism, feeling like, do I have enough? Am I good enough? Because I don't have the right clothes, or I'm not, I didn't get the best degree. Like, taking away all that self-consciousness And when you combine all those things together, you have an opportunity to really press the reset on who you are and what you value. So a lot of people will go to the Burning Man event that I showed you in those pictures, or maybe their local one, because there's so many around the globe, and they'll have an opportunity to evaluate themselves, and they'll hit the reset button on their life, come back from the world as they experience it. They see themselves differently, and they come back. And I know so many people that quit their jobs in search of more meaningful work, or so many people that went and wrote the book that they always wanted to write, or just started volunteering in their neighborhoods, or getting active about what they really care about, and then starting an NGO, starting their own business. It all starts with a personal reset. So that's what we do a lot of.
I didn't catch, because that was really, I want you to just summarize that, just remind me of the 5 points, because the first two, for some reason, my computer went weird. Can you just recap? I got meaningful work, I got uninhibited, and what are the first three again?
Being taken out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you're uncomfortable. You can't just be yourself or recede into what you already know. And ritual and ceremony, having a way to really connect with other people on something that's powerful and meaningful for no other reason than that moment.
And all of those things are really lacking in society, actually. Actually, when I think about all of those elements, the ritual idea, the fact we all are very drawn to consumerism as the kind of the norm, a lot of competition. So it's really, but I like the idea of getting people. I mean, there's nothing more like getting people into well, I mean, in a way, we could say the situation of COVID, I mean, actually, people are starting to write their books, they're starting to do art, they're starting to help their neighbors, they're starting to appreciate essential workers, finally, as the heroes, which they always were, but we just said, investment bankers for some reason should earn the most. I mean, how did that happen? Okay, so let's, Fouzy, can I ask you the same question? How do you really measure success in terms of, what are the principles that you really consider are so important in your formula for kind of transforming the world in the vision that you see?
Actually, the first thing that we did was to put a set of values inside Yes, which is not very, I don't know if I have the best formula. I'm going to be honest, it's been tricky because we are all human beings. But the first one was we wanted to get rid of some newspeak, like when we talk about positive acceptance, we were about tolerance. We were like, tolerance doesn't mean that you accept someone. So we need to change also things and go more into positive acceptance than tolerance. We also were really, from the beginning, we were about empowerment and capacity building. So being able to just try to see what were the best skills of someone, make him or her feel enough comfortable. And we put in our values the fact that we really wanted to question ourselves, to doubt ourselves, because a lot of time in the activist world, people stop doubting themselves and they think strongly, they know what is the best thing to do. But actually, my take, personally, but it was the same than other people inside Yes, was to say we all come from different backgrounds. We all are conditioned by our background growing up, the parents and all of this. And it's going to be a lifetime to get to the Dalai Lama wisdom and try to, rethink everything we learned. So we need to go not too fast and try actually to create a safe space, a brave space, we called it. And we did have like what you said at Burning Man, we did have rituals also. I mean, I can say with honesty that Burning Man is also an inspiration for a lot of people inside Yes, for me also. So yeah, we took also this idea of having rituals and trying also to manage crisis in a sensible way. So that's what I would say. And then after, it's structure. The only recipe is when there is structure, there is freedom.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I always find that I can write my best if I have a structure. Otherwise, I play too wide. So I think having a structure is kind of not locking people in, but in a way, it's locking people in to then they can be creative and think outside the box. Harry, I'm really interested to see. Do you have rituals in your company? Also keen to hear about the way your journey to transformation. I mean, not personally, but how you've managed to. Because you've been a real pioneer in the corporate world, how you've managed to bring so many people along with you. What's your recipe for transformation?
Well, I think, as also Harley and Fouzy indicated in a way, so structure is important, but we cannot bookkeep the future. So in our view, it starts with a vision. So where do we want to go to and why? Share beliefs in that. So we've done it in a few ways. So create a vision that the existing business we had as a leader had to disappear. But same on carbon neutrality and things like that. So to create a common vision, but then to combine it with common goals. So what do we want to realize by when? And then I also strongly believe in creating momentum. So instead of micromanaging, if you create momentum and you get people along, then the movement becomes unstoppable. So if you look at sustainable development today, I've once been asked if I was an optimist or a pessimist. I said, well, I'm a concerned optimist because I'm an optimist because the direction we're going, also the renewable energy and everything, that's unstoppable. Even today, with oil prices crashing, we will still see an ongoing growth of renewable energy. So the direction, I think, is unstoppable, but I'm concerned because we're not moving fast enough. So therefore, a lot of things we do, also in communication and in these partnerships, are focused on how do we create momentum. And there are also a lot of things depend on the choice of words and the narrative. So we have to, if you divide society in three, so there, let's say maybe 10, 20% are eco-innovators. They know how they do this for the bigger reasons, the planet, future generations. There's maybe 10, 20% of ego-laggards. They will try to sell us the past, going back to the past. But there's maybe 60, 70% of eco-majority in the middle. And for them, then let's say saving the planet, all those concepts are a little bit too large, and we need to make it more tangible. So some examples of what we do is if we have better lighting that reduce the energy consumption and the carbon footprint of a school by half, then we rather talk about the impact on learning effectiveness. And we've done there was some research done how that reading speed goes up by 20%, spelling mistakes go down by 30%. So then we talk about brighter schools. And then suddenly, so this majority in the middle, they get it. And they see how that this is a way to go. So really, again, so vision, goals, creating momentum, making this unstoppable. And then there's three angles of action. So one as a company. So where and how do we show leadership? I believe you cannot become, you cannot be a leader by behaving as a follower. So somebody has to lead. And the future that we want to go to, well, you better lead its creation, because otherwise, let's say you may lose out. But secondly, also had to get the sector along. And you mentioned in the beginning, Joe, then also getting the laggards in the lighting sector along is then also in two ways how that works. So first, by creating common goals as a sector, we also showing to them it was inevitable to move away from the old industry. But also at occasions had to be a leader, because then some things, then they were a bit more hesitant. Then you're a leader, and then they catch up again, and you go as a sector. And thirdly, let's say to work in your domain. And in our case, that is the energy efficiency domain. So where we also work with other companies and other stakeholders in transport, in district heating, in industry, so that in all these areas we need to become more efficient to deliver the required mitigation. If you talk about the carbon goal, that we make the same type of progress.
So it's important for companies today to have a societal goal, basically. It's beyond just making money, selling stuff. I mean, a lot of companies, we've really seen this in the COVID-19 in the last months, that companies have really stepped out and had a real social, societal purpose beyond just making money, but as part of communities, and part of the bigger wave of supporting, especially in the local areas. I know that David's been following the chat. So David, do you have some questions or a question?
Yeah, I've got a question that sort of relates to some of the things that have come out in the chat. Certainly the COVID situation has made a lot of us question our processes, question the way that we're doing things, and to ask the question, as someone asked in the chat, how can we try to use this to pivot some of the ways we're doing things and to adopt new actions or to install new practices into the post-pandemic landscape? And I was wondering about, because the nature of Think Act Change and this gathering is about breaking through silos. Of course, all three of you are actually breaking through silos within your work and within your worlds. And I was wondering if how much there is a possibility or willingness or creativity to go outside of the usual realm of stakeholders. I know that Burning Man might have started as a desert experience, but has progressed to being something more on a global state. But does that include going against kind of almost not antithetical actors, but maybe thinking outside the box in terms of people you could work with to try and bring your principles to a wider audience? And the same goes for Harry, Harry, obviously you've been instrumental in bringing all kinds of different company and corporate interests together in the interest of sustainability. How much is there a willingness to use this experience to work differently and to change and to try and get outside of those silos, to maybe to some of the other people represented here, the movements, the artists and those kinds of people? Is there a way that those can come together, or is it a sake of corporate is one silo and it can obviously have a huge, massive impact on things, but it cannot work outside of that? And then Fouzy, I guess it would be the opposite, is working with youth movements, with NGOs, with activists all over the world. How can that be brought to the company world, the corporate world, those other kinds of worlds, where to try and create some kind of meaningful coalition? Because as someone said, we don't have much time to fix our sustainability problem, our human effect on this planet, and that this might be a very limited, a unique situation in which certain practices can be changed. So that's a question for all of you. So I don't know whoever wants to go.
I'll go first.
Okay, you got it.
Great question. I have two things to throw in the pot on this one. First of all, it's always been my secret dream, and I don't think I was dreaming big enough. My secret dream has been that Burning Man could change corporate America. But I don't think that's a big enough dream. I think corporations in general. So when people complain the rich people are coming to Burning Man and they're flying in and they're getting these fancy camps, I'm like, bring it on. Because if we can get some CEO who doesn't have the time to come, who can actually come and have that transformational experience, or at least even see it, we have seen that they take it back to their companies. They start to change the way their company works. So there are different corporations like Zappos, that they're burners. Elon Musk and SpaceX, those are burners. We're changing the way people actually run their corporations and treat their people because of their Burning Man experience. So I want to change the way corporations work by having those leaders experience what we're doing and have them incorporate it into their worlds, which are their corporations. Secondly, I want to say that this pandemic has emboldened us. We put out a strategic sustainability roadmap last year that was geared for 2028 and 2030, and we're just saying, we're up at our game. We're going to get it done by 2024 instead. We're doubling down on a whole plan of much time, right? We didn't have as much time to actually really do the things that make a big impact on the world, not on things that we're doing, but on the world. So now we're doubling down on those opportunities, and you'll probably see coming out of our organization in the next, we're moving fast, couple of weeks, I hope, a whole new roadmap for sustainability that's going to employ people, teach people new skills, keep people employed during this hard time, plus create the things we want to create, and a whole ecosystem to use these things with disasters, to use it for Burning Man, and etc. So we're just doubling down on doing the good work right now.
I can't add a lot. I mean, I would say that how can we do? We can join Burning Man. That would be a first thing. And no, the second thing, we've been also working with different companies where we do a lot of advocacy work, but not only. One of our take is that companies need young people, need to recruit. A lot of them have difficulties, especially in global north, in Europe, where it's people are trying to find a job with a meaning, with something behind it, and where we can really help companies is to shift their model and through everything that goes with corporate social responsibility. So that's where we will have a little bit of a work. It will be through corporate social responsibility. And I don't have.
Yes, it may be good to build on that, Fouzy. So then I really believe, and I've also mentioned in different events, that the best way to serve any self-interest is to invest in the common interest. I think you know these theories of win-win and win-lose and lose-lose. I think win-lose, but some people are advocating, maybe the more populistic people, in the end is lose-lose. So the only way that we can make progress is by working together for the common interest. And in that, I think also this pandemic gives us a lot of hope, because we do see the spirit of togetherness is much more present than anything else. You see, even as we speak now, so not only because this is a webinar, but I think in many calls we have people switch on the cameras, they take a social moment to ask with real interest how you're doing. There's more understanding for how people are struggling, instead of management by pressure and based just on performance indicators. I think this increased spirit of togetherness provides us a lot of hope. So what we do also there some work in this CSR space. We just issued our annual report last Friday, and there we also work on providing access to energy to underserved communities. So with solar LED lighting, but also at this stage we provide lighting for new healthcare facility extensions, ultraviolet UVC lighting for disinfection of air and medical equipment. And I think many companies have similar examples. So you see, in that sense, then any stakeholder, if it's a corporate or public sector or NGOs or societal, I think everybody has a human face. I'm also a parent and a citizen, so I also want to live in a healthy living environment. And we also know that products that don't serve anyone's purpose, in the end, then will also lose out. So I think there's much more mutual understanding that we're in this fight together, but also that we need the different disciplines and the different capabilities together, because only then we can succeed.
Fascinating, thank you. I've been really impressed personally by the leadership models for transformation or for change, or even for crisis management we've seen from Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. And other leaders. So there's been a real contrast in how some of our leaders have dealt with this crisis situation, some with care and compassion and others with a kind of calamity approach. I'm thinking about the leadership models, or thinking about the audience that we have here, really a diverse group of NGOs, of networks, of civil society, of business, of institutional people. And at the end of the day, we need individuals, whatever the age, who are going to show that leadership and following that kind of leadership potential or a leadership model. And what kind of model would you all say would be the leadership model that you have used to reach reach where you all are today individually, and what kind of leadership model is needed? What kind of skills are needed in your experience that will help us all do better to scale up and speed up the transformation? And whoever wants to go first. Harry, you're on the screen. Maybe you want to go first.
Well, so let's say I don't know how all the leadership models are named, but I think one that I find really inspiring, and I read the book a long time ago, is based on Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think what I liked about that model is that it outlines how can you structure your personal life, your private life, but also how can you work together in your public environment. And also how can you continuously grow and improve. And what is good about the book is that it gives both personal examples from Stephen Covey and his family, and also from the work that he has done. And it really starts off, I think, with a lot of things that have been discussed, that we look beyond self-interest, that we look beyond taking a shortcut, that we look beyond the superficial techniques to sell anything to anyone, but really it's to how can we create a future based on common interest. And it may sound, I don't think that it is naive, because it's the only future that will work. So anybody we know from experiments from any geography has the same brain power. I lived 5 years in Brazil, and I also know at a certain moment there was also an experiment done that people from an Indian tribe from the Amazon were taken and then were put in a school and educated, but they were just as bright as you and me, and they were capable of doing the same things. So nobody that is underserved or let's say partially excluded today is not capable of joining and of contributing into this future. I think if we then really strive to develop a more inclusive approach, and for part the dashboard is the SDGs, I think really that's the leadership approach, to use that as a template, to see what is it that we want to build together. And then let's say for part maybe final remark there, there's a lot of talk, we know that. So I really believe that we can become more successful if we divide our time, if we spend our time in 3 ways. So I think probably had the 80-20 rule. I believe more in the 10-20-70 rule, so that we spend 10% of our time on inspiration. So on talking about why do we do this, and what is this future that we want to build, take people along. 20% of our time we should dedicate to aspiration. So working out how much do we need to do, by when and who. But then 70% of our time we should spend on perspiration. So rolling up our sleeves and getting the job done. Because things are ever so urgent, and I think we all have examples from private and from professional life, that if you really start working on something, the actual work takes most of the time. So then in a timely fashion, we should stop talking. We should understand that we'll also learn on the way, and we can only learn by doing and doing together.
Great, and also making some mistakes on the way, but that's fine, as long as we have the good intention.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, somebody gave me that book to read, I think in my first job I had in London. So that was like when I was like 25, and I found it was a really great read in my 20s, I have to say. So who wants to go next?
I can go. Oh no, go.
You want to go, Fouzy?
Yeah, because I will be quicker than you, I think, because you have. We don't have yet a clear model on our side. We are testing things. We tested sociocracy, we tested holacracy, and now we are more into a model where the person who has a duty and is supposed to do something is the leader of it. So for now we are on that. So the one who is working is the leader and can say something, but we still don't really know. We are trying to adapt on our side.
Cool. So Harley, what do you think? Leadership.
Well, I've thought a lot about this one too. We go back to ancient times. I think I'm frustrated in the world by the model that I think people think is important and rules so much of what we do, and I just think it's a waste of time. And I call it the game of money. That's where if your end product is to succeed by making money, it's deadpan. It doesn't go anywhere. It's base. If you get enough money, then you can get power, and then you can get status. And it's driven by ego. It's driven by competition, and it's driven by dominance. And those just are like they make people want to climb back in their shells and retreat. It's just uncomfortable. So what we do is we go to something that everyone is equally as familiar with. We just don't talk about it as much as perhaps we used to, and it's been around forever. As long as there's been people, this has been the model. And I have called it female leadership. Little known fact that Burning Man's always been run by women. 3 men and 3 women started it, and all the men agree. We've always, been the people who run it. And but I don't like the gender name being, I don't like gender being associated with it, so I don't like that. But it's really just an ancient way of being, and that is that you have to earn social capital. You don't become a leader because you decided you were, or you had enough money, or whatever. People have to believe in you. They have to trust you. So you have to have social capital to be able to do anything. So you have to earn that. Once you have that, but it's really nurturing. It's much easier to say, go do that because you're getting paid than it is to bring people along, to hear their ideas, to have them become part of the narrative, to have their thoughts be incorporated, or perhaps to even realize their idea is better than yours and you should go with their idea instead. So nurturing. And if you do those things, you will succeed. You will make the money. You will get to the end on time, but you'll do it with so much more richness. You do it with a sense of fulfillment, with a sense of everybody, all boats rose, like everyone feels good now. And it's so much more than actually just getting to the end game. And that's something that a good family teaches you. That's something that religion has taught us. That's something that a good mentor in your life can teach you. That's been around forever. So that's really how we do things at Burning Man.
So I just wanted to say, just in terms of, thank you for those answers, by the way. It's really amazing, especially to hear about the different models that you have in your heads and in your organizations. I was just thinking that, we're in this era of coalition generation, or at least that's what we're trying to do with this and what some other actors are trying to do within their silos, however big those silos are, and beyond. If we want to take this opportunity to build a new kind of society or a new sense of society around the world, like perhaps in the early industrial years in the UK, where the idea of the welfare state was born. Maybe we're in a similar situation where certain, systemic problems in the way that we're living globally have to be addressed, and this is the time to do it before it's too late. And so in the interest of the creative coalitions, which is why we're having this event and what we wanted to talk about is the subject itself, not to be too metaphysical, metatextual rather, but I wanted to ask you all, what would be your dream, a realistic dream of the kinds of actors that you might want to reach out to? Suppose we could expand this digital circle that we're talking to now and create a little working group, and you could have your dream working group, as it were. It doesn't need to be, it's not like which dead celebrity would I like to have dinner with or anything like that. It's more kind of realistic about who might be useful in terms of broadening your scope of partners and achieving some particular goal that you have, like that would really speed you along the way to your goal. So who wants to have a go? Did I floor everyone with that question? Dream partners, that's it. But realistic dreams.
The realistic dreams, there are so many. I don't know. I would say on the side of yes, I would say that one partner we have not been able to reach out our 3 partners, and that I would really like to work with would be couchsurfing, the couchsurfing community, the woofing community, the Burning Man community, and the EU, the Commission Européenne, the European Commission.
Maybe I'll have to go at it as well. I think most of all, we need change agents from any discipline, and we already have quite a good and diverse set of stakeholders here together, and I think in the things we work on. Maybe then coming back to the initial, let's say to some initial wording on building back better, and then I would say building forward better. I've also done some reflections on the economic growth model that we have, which is very linear and based on more is better, adding up consumption and investments. And if you see there that this is based on the most they're also on a perverse linear indicator, which is GDP. And when I was a small boy, this was hardly ever on the news, but now it's every day on the news, which is ridiculous. So there is some thinking, like, okay, let's fix the problems that we face today, and then go back to capitalism as it was, and I think that if we fix things, we should go more to a circular way of doing things, where it's not like the verdict of more is better, but better is best. So the more sustainable solutions, which provide a better service, so that instead of invoicing stuff, we go to leasing services, and instead of measuring GDP, we look at quality of life. One research that I read a couple of years ago is that over the past 20, 30 years, GDP had grown by 40% in the United States, but people were distinctively less happy. So what do you want? And I would call that model where we look at quality of life, circular, service-based, I would call that sustainalism. So we're talking a lot about sustainability, but I would call that sustainalism. So not capitalism, and not notching up capitalism or disguised socialism, but sustainalism. So maybe here we should also call in some of the forward-looking or the change agents from the economic discipline, so that instead of them rushing to finding money to invest and throw at anything, that they will also look a little bit further at the length of their nose, and to see what is actually the model that we should adopt when we are close to 8 billion and later on 9 billion. How can we make this work without just looking linearly and massively spending and consuming? Because there will come an end to that. We can't go deeper in debt, and we can't dig deeper for resources. I think you know what I mean there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. And Harley, did you want? We don't have much time, but maybe you could give us a little answer.
Good, because I don't have that much to say. But I will say that I loved everything that Harry you've just been saying, and Fouzy as well. I really appreciate this conversation. I did have the opportunity with a nation of makers to feel the force that comes behind a president believing in what you believe in. So if I'm going to partner, I'm going to want to try to find somebody that's really powerful. And then I would have to do the analysis as to what is the thing, what is going to further us the fastest, and what are all the elements, and find those people at the highest levels to help further that work. And I think that unto itself would bring in a broad breadth of people, lots of doers, some thinkers, some aspiration, some inspiration, and it would have to be really carefully thought about to meet the end goal with analysis. But definitely get someone like a president in your court. That helps.
Right. On that note, on that very humble ambition of getting a president on side, I think we have to wrap it up. I'm afraid that the time has whizzed by. I feel like we're just getting started. But I just want to say, I think, Harry, you make a really important point exactly about, it's all about the economics. Sustainability and environmentalism and community and the just transition and inequality is not over there somewhere. It's actually at the hub of the economy and the kind of world we want to build. And some governments, or European level, we're lucky there's a thing called the Green Deal. So a lot of the companies and NGOs are working on that. Different levels of it. Of course, we can always go further, but to have that overarching framework of like transforming the economy, I mean, that would be a great outcome of this, the crisis we're in right now. I just want to say, and I could recap on so many things. I found it fascinating personally, the leadership, sharing, how you all do that, the rituals, the principles, the values, and actually the passion, and how you all in your own areas have to work so hard to break through boundaries and to transform organizations, communities, others, and bring so many on you, along with you. I would have a wish that we can, wherever we are on the spectrum, work together more, do better. If we're in this mindset, and some of us are already in the transformed moment or mindset that we really get it, that those of us in that mindset, we help others to see that as well and kind of all move forward. So I would thank you, Harley, Harry, and Fouzy. Thank you all so much. And all of you guys, participants, we still have almost 30 on the call. Those are still there who haven't staggered off for a drink yet. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time. And thanks again. So I think we're off now. I'm going to leave the chat open for a bit. So if you want to continue to chat, feel free for the next 15 minutes or so. Otherwise, I'll say goodbye to now, and thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you to the speakers. You've been amazing. Thanks for putting the work in and for appearing.
Thank you so much. It's really fun.
Thank you.